Have you ever wondered if the biggest regrets in life are the things we did or the chances we never took? The scent of old paper and lemon polish always takes me back to Grand Aunt Lenora's study. It wasn't a grand room, just a small space tucked away at the back of her rambling Victorian house, overflowing with books and curiosities gathered from a life fully lived. Lenora herself, well into her 90s when I knew her, was a force of nature contained in a frail frame. She had eyes that sparkled with mischief and a voice raspy from telling countless stories, and her laughter was a melody that could fill any room. I was a young man, fresh out of university, paralyzed by the infinite possibilities stretching before me. I'd spent years diligently following the prescribed path, good grades, responsible choices, a safe future. But now, standing at the precipice of adulthood, I felt empty. Unlike my peers who were eagerly climbing corporate ladders or jet-setting across the globe, I felt no pull, no burning ambition, just a vague sense of unease. I felt lost. One blustery autumn afternoon, seeking refuge from the storm raging both outside and within, I found myself at Lenora's door. She welcomed me in with a warm hug and a pot of steaming herbal tea. "You look like you've swallowed a thundercloud, Thomas," she said, her gaze sharp and perceptive. "Tell me, what troubles your young heart?" I poured out my anxieties, my fears of making the wrong choices or wasting my potential. I confessed that the safe path I had always followed now felt like a cage. Lenora listened patiently, her eyes twinkling with amusement. When I was finally finished, she chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. "Ah, Thomas, my dear boy, you're suffering from the universal affliction of youth, the fear of not knowing everything." She rose, slowly, her hand gripping the ornate back of her armchair for support. "Come," she said. "I have something to show you." She led me to a dusty corner of her study, where a large antique trunk sat beneath a tapestry depicting a scene from a long-forgotten myth. With a grunt of effort, she heaved open the heavy lid, revealing a jumble of objects, faded photographs, yellowed letters, seashells, dried flowers, trinkets from faraway lands. "This," she announced, gesturing to the contents, "is my museum of almost." I stared at the chaotic collection, puzzled. "Almost?" "Yes," she said with a mischievous grin. "The things I almost did, the places I almost went, the people I almost loved." She picked up a faded photograph of her as a young woman standing beside a handsome man in a naval uniform. "That's Charles," she said softly. "I almost married him. He was a good man, a brave man. But he wasn't my man." She rummaged through the trunk, pulling out a tattered brochure for a language school in Florence. "I almost moved to Italy to study art. Imagine. Me, Lenora Ainsworth, a struggling artist in Florence." She laughed again, that infectious, rumbling sound. But life had other plans. She held up a small, intricately carved wooden bird. "This came from a market in Singapore. I almost took a job there, teaching English to underprivileged children. It would have been an adventure, a chance to make a real difference." As Lenora continued to share the stories behind each object, I began to understand. The trunk wasn't a repository of regrets, but a testament to a life rich with possibilities, a life lived fully, even in the face of unfulfilled dreams. You see, "Thomas," she said, her voice growing more serious, "life is not about avoiding the almost. It's about embracing them. It's about having the courage to consider the paths not taken, to dream the dreams that never came to fruition. It's about living with the knowledge that you explored the possibilities, even if you ultimately chose a different route." She took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Don't be afraid to make mistakes, Thomas. Don't be afraid to fail. The only real failure is not trying at all." Her words sparked something within me, a flicker of hope in the darkness of my uncertainty. I realized that my fear wasn't about making the wrong choice, but about not making any choice at all. I was so afraid of deviating from the prescribed path that I was paralyzed, unable to move forward. Lenora's Museum of Almost was a reminder that life is messy, unpredictable, and full of detours. It was a reminder that the journey is often more important than the destination. In the weeks that followed, I spent a lot of time with Lenora, listening to her stories, absorbing her wisdom. She told me about her own regrets, the chances she wished she had taken, the words she wished she had spoken. But she always emphasized that even those regrets had shaped her, had made her the person she was. One day I asked her, "Lenora, what's the one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?" She paused, considering the question. Carefully. "I would tell her to be bolder," she said finally. "To take more risks, to love more fiercely, to speak her mind even when it's uncomfortable. And most importantly, to trust her own instincts." Inspired by Lenora's words, I started to take small steps outside my comfort zone. I volunteered at a local community center, helping disadvantaged kids with their homework. I enrolled in a pottery class, a long dormant interest I had always dismissed as frivolous. I even started writing again, something I had loved as a child, but had abandoned in the pursuit of a practical career. Slowly, gradually, I began to find my way. The emptiness I had felt began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of purpose, a feeling of being alive. Then, one morning, I received a phone call. Lenore had passed away peacefully in her sleep. I was heartbroken, but not devastated. I knew that she had lived a long, full life, and that she had left a lasting impact on me, and I knew that her wisdom would continue to guide me even in her absence. At her funeral, I stood beside her museum of almost, which had been brought from her study and placed near the altar. As people filed past, I overheard snippets of conversations, stories of Lenore's kindness, her generosity, her unwavering spirit. I realized that her true legacy wasn't in the tangible objects she had collected, but in the lives she had touched. After the service, I inherited Lenora's house and, of course, her museum of almost. For a long time, I kept the trunk tucked away in the corner of the study, a reminder of her wisdom and her love. Years passed. I traveled the world, pursued my passions, and made my fair share of mistakes. I experienced joy and sorrow, love and loss. I learned that life is indeed messy, unpredictable, and full of detours. One day, I found myself standing in Lenora's study, looking at the trunk. I realized that it was time to add my own almost to the collection. I opened the lid and placed inside a photograph of a woman I had almost married, a plane ticket to a country I had almost visited, a rejection letter from a publisher for a novel I had almost finished. As I closed the lid, I smiled. The Museum of Almost was no longer just a reminder of Lenora's life, but a reflection of my own. It was a testament to a life lived fully, a life embraced with all its possibilities and imperfections. It was a reminder that the biggest regrets in life aren't the things we did, but the chances we never took. And that perhaps the most important thing we can do is to learn to live with our almost, to understand that they are an integral part of our story, a part of what makes us who we are. Now, as I've grown older, I find myself thinking more and more about Lenora's trunk. I add to it periodically. The postcard from a city I dreamed of living in, but didn't. The program from a concert that reminded me of a love I almost confessed. A half-written manuscript of a play I never brought myself to finish. Each item is a tiny monument to a road not taken. But here's the thing I've learned. The wisdom Lenora was really trying to impart, it's not the almost themselves that matter. It's what they teach us about ourselves, about our capacity to dream, to yearn, to imagine. Different lives. The regret isn't in the not doing, but in the not daring to dream it in the first place. Because every almost is a testament to a life lived with intention, with curiosity, with an open heart. So if you're young and uncertain, caught between paths, remember Lenora's trunk. Collect your own almost. Don't be afraid of them. Let them be a guide, a reminder that the most valuable thing you can do is live a life that is truly, authentically your own. And if you're older with a lifetime of almost behind you, don't dismiss them. Embrace them. They are the colorful threads that make up the tapestry of your experience. They are the whispers of possibilities that shape the person you became. And who knows? Maybe it's never too late to pursue that one lingering almost, to finally step onto the path you only dared to dream of before.